Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Allan. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast. Our special guest today is Catherine Auman from Southern California. She's a licensed therapist with advanced training in both traditional and transpersonal psychology with 30 years of successful professional experience helping thousands of clients. And what she likes to do is work with you on your personal healing and spiritual advancement. I like that. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. It's lovely to be here.
So, spiritual advancement, I'm sure that probably is defined 2,000 different ways by 2,000 different people. Is that a fair statement?
I would say so. Probably each person has their own definition.
So how do you work with people to come up with a meaningful definition that will help them?
Well, I think that once a person has mastered basic living skills, like being able to hold down a job and have friendships and so forth, and basically have a good value system, which is actually for a lot of my clients, that's a goal for them. And once someone is able to do that, then we want to look at what else is possible for a human being. And I think then we want to get into more issues of meaning and value and what's life all about. And I think for a lot of us, it kind of boils down to something that the Dalai Lama said, which is his religion is kindness. So I think we want to get into expanding our capacity to be compassionate for all kinds of people, all kinds of ways of life. Openness to other people's viewpoints. I think that's expanding into spiritual understanding.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and talk about something that's needed more and more every day, it seems. I mean, you can't ignore that, yet people do. Ignore how important it is to have a value system, to have accountability, to have friends, to have an open heart for other people, and it's not easy for some people.
Well, some people are pretty still trying to wrap up how to make their own life work. We can understand that.
You bet.
And that can be difficult depending on what kind of childhood we came from or what kind of economic situation. So we certainly want to support people, but then I think it's expanding our own hearts, working on our own self to be able to love everyone.
And that's where you come in. You have the life skills as well as the experience, the training, all of those kinds of things to be able to recognize the possibilities in other people, right?
Well, I had to work on myself very hard.
Sure.
I think that can be, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have too, I think that can be a good quality for a therapist sometimes, is that we had to do our own work. I came from a difficult childhood and kind of worked my way out of that. And then as I go along, I notice more and more opportunities for me to expand my own heart. Mm-hmm. And I work on those, as I'm sure you and a lot of your listeners do.
You bet. And when you do that, that opens you up to help other people with what you've just learned, right?
Yeah, we can help other people, and we can also just help other people just standing in line at Starbucks by smiling and saying good morning, and instead of being grumpy and critical of everyone around us, we can just extend a feeling of acceptance and warmth.
Well, and even to homeless people, especially homeless people in my mind, but because they seem to be such an ignored part of our community. But so many of them that I run into, anyway, they just appreciate a hello. I mean, just being recognized as a human being rather than whatever other people think about them.
Well, that is so true, David. I know when I was working with the mentally ill, which a lot of the homeless people are, as you know.
Sure.
They rarely even get the courtesy of being treated like a human being, which is kind of awful. And it's partly because we're afraid of them and we're afraid of mental illness. But if we can just open up our hearts and realize we're all in this together and this human being deserves the courtesy of a hello and a nod, it can go so far.
Absolutely. And what's cool about it is, whether you realize it or not, when you do that, it makes you feel good.
Well, that's the secret benefit, right?
Right.
That's the secret selfishness.
Yeah, that's right. That's the secret sauce. So you help people with personal healing, spiritual advancement. You've got a book out called Shortcuts to Mindfulness. Mindfulness is certainly a buzzword that's all over everywhere these days, from mindful eating to mindful talking to mindful praying to. So tell us a little bit about your approach to mindfulness in your book. It looks like it's been very well received.
Oh, thank you. My book, actually, Shortcuts to Mindfulness, it's very easy to read. You don't have to actually sit down to commit to read a whole book, which a lot of us don't have the attention span for anymore. I wrote it in little bites that you can just read while you're waiting for someone to text you back or while you're waiting for the bus to get a little insight. What I mean by mindfulness is paying attention to what's going on right now. We're usually so busy thinking about, don't forget what I need to get at the store, and that bugged me so much what that person said to me yesterday, and we've got very busy, exciting lives, most of us.
Yeah.
And if we can just stop, be in this present moment, experience my own breathing, experience my own physical body sitting here against the chair, the warm air and so forth. Real happiness is right here in this present moment, no matter what else is going on.
And it only takes a minute or two.
It only takes a minute, can sometimes be even less than a minute.
Yeah.
Remembering it is another thing. That's why that's why Buddhists and so forth practice for years trying to remember.
Right.
But for those of us who can just remind each other to take a moment of mindfulness, it can really change the quality of our lives.
Well, and for those of us who live and die by our calendar, it wouldn't be bad just to schedule mindfulness in your calendar, you know?
Yeah, I've got to be mindful next hour sometime, right? 4:15 today.
That's right. 4:15 today. Oh, damn it, it's 4:16. Well, I'll have to wait till tomorrow.
Actually, any prompt can help. I hope my book can help people to just come into a mindful moment.
Yeah.
And experience how life good is right now, no matter what else is going on.
And if you go to Catherine's website, it's Catherine Auman, AUMAN.com. You'll see a trailer about her book. Some testimonials are on there. You'll be able to see and hear Catherine talk about spirituality and different things of that nature. And join her mailing list. I already joined your mailing list. I'm fascinated by what you do and how you do it. So I'm
great.
looking
Thanks.
forward to getting more of that information. And you've got a lot of books out in addition to Shortcuts to Mindfulness, right?
Well, my most recent book is called Tantric Dating, and everyone immediately becomes alarmed that I'm talking about having sex with everyone, and it has nothing to do with sex whatsoever. I think that the word tantra has kind of been absconded by people who advertise in the back pages of magazines, but tantra is actually a philosophy. It's actually a philosophy that everything is sacred, even sex. And but it's everything is sacred. And so I, through my own experiences of trying to date again later in life, I went back to some spiritual principles of what if we dated with the fact that everyone's all right? I'm going to enjoy meeting you, even if you're not my life partner, and date from that perspective versus the conventional dating method, which is swipe left, swipe left, swipe left if you don't look like a movie star.
Right, exactly right. That's a wonderful. My wife, before we got married, my wife did that, and I did that as well. As far as trying to meet people and accept them for who they are, and hopefully, if nothing else, have a conversation. If nothing else, have somebody to go on a hike with. If nothing else, thank you. Have a nice day. You know.
I love that, and I think that loving perspective. One thing I teach in this book and in the workshops I'm doing is that I think that's one reason you and your wife were able to meet each other, because you were treating other people lovingly.
Yeah.
And so you were loving, being, you were dating in a loving way. Just maybe I'm not going to marry you, but let's go for a hike. Maybe I'm not going to marry you, but what's interesting about you? Let's just share some quality time together.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that you both were practicing being loving people, and that's why you could attract each other. What I see from a lot of people I counsel and who come to my workshops is that the conventional dating process online or dating advice teaches us to go into a date with a shopping list of all the characteristics I'm looking for. And if you're not that, swipe left and get out of that date as fast as possible.
Right.
And you miss the opportunity to have a lovely experience, meet a new person, learn something. By dating in that way, we become less loving people, and we become further and further away from being able to meet another loving person.
Well said. In fact, my wife and I have talked about that many times, that in some degree, at some levels, we're 180 degrees apart, but what's the same is our heart is exactly the same. And
Beautiful.
so, that's just a gift. I don't know what to tell you. Pretty cool stuff. So I look up blessed in the dictionary and there's our picture. That's all I know.
I love that.
So tell us about you're in Southern California. Do you travel around and do workshops? Do you do workshops just in the Southern California area? How does that work?
Well, I am actually just starting. I'm starting a West Coast tour. I was up in Seattle, and that was quite well received. And we're going to Portland in March. And so, if you invite me out there when it's not freezing, I may show up.
There you go.
But I'm not sure I'm going to come, David, while it's 14 degrees. So.
I would not either. That's well said. That's well said. There's a lot of stuff available on your website for folks just to get a taste, if you will, of the kind of stuff that you offer. And I really like this line on your website. It says, uniquely qualified to serve your psychological and spiritual needs. And that not only comes from your training, but from your life experience, right?
Exactly. My graduate work in psychology was done at a special school for transpersonal psychology, which means, in addition to conventional Western psychology,
mm-hmm.
which comes out of Freud and Jung and all these people, we also take into equal consideration alternative psychology, such as from the East, from Native people, from some of the experiments that were going on when psychedelic drugs were legal, where there was some interesting research being done into the possibilities of that type of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's not legal now.
Right.
And the mystical traditions, religious experience, and so forth. We studied all of those things as being equally important to Western psychology, so it's not either or. And we saw that there are many ways of healing, and we took them all into consideration.
Wow.
And for myself, that was the perfect school for me because I wanted to be a licensed therapist. I didn't want to be out of the mainstream. But I also had always been asking these major questions since I was a child, which is, Daddy, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when we die? What's really important in life? So I had always been that kind of curious child. So following my own spiritual interests and combining it with psychology was a perfect fit.
Fascinating. And those are questions that we all ask ourselves at one time or another in our life, right?
I hope we do.
Yeah.
I think we're often encouraged to not ask them, but to sort of just be kind of hypnotized by entertainment.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's okay if people want to take some time and think about these things. I know sometimes people want to think about them and everyone around them is going, don't be depressing. It's like, well...
Yeah. Because they don't know what they don't know, so they'd rather shut you down than give you a chance,
Exactly, but these are the questions people have asked, it seemed to me, since the beginning of time. So
agreed.
I think we're go ahead and ask and explore.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to mention that I have my YouTube channel, which you can get to through my website, where I'm putting up lots of videos where you could find something maybe that helps you for free. If there's anything there, just go ahead and check that out.
Nice. And how do we get to that?
You can just go to YouTube and just search for my name.
Okay.
Which is Catherine spelled with a C, and Auman is Auman. And I think currently I have about 60 videos. I learned how to make videos watching YouTube videos. So
that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of great information on there. People just sharing. I think it's actually quite spiritual how people are just giving.
And there's so many of them, and I like the way you say that because giving and sharing is a big should be a big deal in everybody's life. And to be able to receive those videos in that manner, I mean, touch one person and you've hit a home run.
That's what my boyfriend is always saying. When I was first starting giving my workshops, maybe 3 people would show up and I'd be disappointed. He'd go, Catherine, if you help one person, it was worth it.
Right? Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful motto.
Yeah, agreed. You should put that on. That should be part of your mission statement.
I love that. I love that. That's great.
That's cool.
I was just going to say, you're certainly helping lots more than one person yourself. So thanks for your work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is I'm a voice actor by profession, and so I've been interested in podcasts for a long time as far as doing one, but I didn't want to do one on voice acting because there's so many out there that do that, and they do a great job. And I thought, well, what can I do to maybe reach some other people in curious ways, and not unlike the 3 questions that you asked, and do it in kind of a pay it forward mode, So I focus on marketing, business management, relationships, self-improvement, and I interview experts on those various topics. And that's why yours is such a great fit, because it's not just Western work, it's everything. And I think that's the more we can expose ourselves to everything in the world, the better off we're going to be, I
think that's really the message of this fascinating time we live in with the internet and so forth, is we get exposed to many things we didn't as a child, and we can synthesize the best of all that human beings have put together so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can just take a nugget, from here or there or whatever, and you listen to a 15-minute speech or discussion and you go, oh, that 15 seconds was cool. And you file those little nuggets away, all of a sudden you have a whole bag of new tricks that you can pay attention to as you move through life.
Absolutely. And I think that's where wisdom comes from.
There you go.
Putting all those things together.
Yep.
And working on ourselves to become better people. Unfortunately, sometimes suffering and difficulty makes us better people.
True.
It seems to work that way.
Yeah.
And so going through all that, then we can become a wiser person, and then start, as you said, paying it forward, started giving that back.
Yeah.
I think the world right now is, I think especially older people have, we wanted to stay youthful, which is a good thing. I have nothing against that, but I think part of what's been missing is the desire to take it upon ourselves to say, I'm in an older role now. I want to give back and help younger people.
Absolutely right.
And absolutely, I think people such as yourself are coming forward and starting to, as we come forward and say, hey, the world's kind of a mess. I want to help.
Yeah.
In my own little way. If I help one person, I just want to help. I want entertainment is fine. Playing golf is fine. But is that the purpose of my life, or is the purpose of my life now to give something back?
Absolutely. And here's a really easy one. I'm gonna venture a guess that every school district on the planet has a reading day for their students, a volunteer reading day. I know because I've done a few of myself. And so you check in with the school district and say, well, do you have one of these? Yeah. Well, grade 2nd through 4th, or what do you have? And you find out, and they give you the book, and you go in and you read a book to these kids in this class, and you walk out a changed person, and hopefully they are as well. I mean, it's so simple. So simple.
I haven't heard of that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so simple. So, this stuff doesn't have to be complicated. If people want to get in touch with you and learn more about personal growth, spiritual advancement, those kinds of things, how do they do that?
Oh, please check me out on Facebook, my YouTube channel. You can send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, my website. Let's just stay in touch.
Absolutely. It's Catherine, that's Catherine, Catherine Auman, AUMAN.com. She's got lots of books. Her blog is there, YouTube, all kinds of free things that hopefully give you a little bit of an epiphany. And congratulations on all the work you're doing. It's really, it's cool stuff. Just a real treat for me to talk to you today.
Well, thank you so much. It's a treat for me to talk to you as well, David.
Listen to Your 20-Minute Podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/Your 20-Minute Podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.